Hey guys, it's Coach P. Just wanted to go ahead and touch on Unit 3, Personal Finance Part 1. If you are following along on Canvas, you can actually open up the PowerPoint presentation. We'll be going over slides 1 through 20, which is also sections 1 and 2. I will post this video on Canvas at your leisure to work at your own pace. But if you feel like I'm going too fast, or you feel like you misinterpreted or don't understand something, you can review it on Canvas. All right, so let's get started. So we talked about spending, saving, and investment. In personal finance, this is probably going to be the biggest module, the biggest unit, the most important unit to you. Why? We talked about fundamentals, the basic fundamentals of economics. We also talked about microeconomics, how individual decisions and businesses work together in order to affect supply and demand, or wants and desires. With personal finance, I feel like we're going to break it down to where this is the most important thing to you. Okay, granted, economics, the whole unit is, essential and beneficial to you. But with personal finance, this is probably something that you're going to take on once you graduate. All right, so like I said, we talked about spending, savings, and investment. Okay, how we use our money. This is important to you. At the bottom, you see our standards. This was below our learning target on my board. SSPF 1 and 2. These were on the orange documents on the board. This is basically the standards, or Georgia Performance Standards, which is now currently Georgia Standards of Excellence. Why? And what are we going to talk about for this unit? All right, so let's get started. All right, so in every decision you make, you got to have, there has to be some sort of rational decision. Okay, you got to rationalize. You got to break down, whether or not something is a want, a need, and you're also going to determine what is your opportunity cost and what's your trade-offs. Now, the basic problem in economics, like we said back in Unit 1 with fundamentals, was scarcity. That's where you have unlimited wants and desires, but not enough resources to suffice everybody's wants and needs. Okay, every decision you make, every economic decision you make is going to have, a cost or a benefit. And we'll talk about that later on. So we break down our wants and needs. What is considered a want? What is considered a need? Do we want something or do we need it? We're going to determine the difference between the two when we play a game here shortly. Opportunity cost, like I said, your next best alternative is the number one thing you're giving up when making a rational decision. Your trade-offs are all the other options and choices that you have, that you may have not chosen, but is another option or a reason why you did not choose something or chose something. So when we talk about wants and needs, what's the difference? If I want it, I need it, right? Yeah, you're wrong, okay? Just because you want something doesn't necessarily you need it. Now, we will get into a little controversy when we play this game here shortly, determining whether or not wants is a want or a good. You need a good, in a sense. Okay, so I asked you to create this following chart on your paper. We talked about your wants and your needs, and this is where it tied into the game. So I want to figure out, what is the difference, all right? With the need, it's something that you need to survive, okay? Water, food, shelter. Think logistically, okay? Don't say that you necessarily need, those brand new Nike shoes or that brand new iPhone X. That's not a need. Now, you may think that, but do you really need that to survive? Probably not. Now, your want is things that are nice, but not necessarily for you to survive, okay? So that iPhone X can kind of go into that, or those new Nike shoes. All right. So now this can contradict one another. Sometimes these two things do not match, for various people. And we talked about it today. Everybody had different wants and needs. So let's look at this list that we compared earlier today. All right. So what I did, if you were not, attending today, everybody had the option, the autonomy to choose which good was a want or which was a need. So up here you have flip-flops, a cell phone, a backpack, a laptop, cars, pantry full of food, and clothes. Okay? Granted, I do know this, the images are quite old, but you get the picture, okay? Excuse me. I'm joking, guys. Alright, so look, check it out. Flip-flops, was that a want or a need, okay? The class decided that it was necessarily just a want. We don't necessarily need that, okay? A cell phone, that was kind of on the, that was kind of on the verge of, want or need. You couldn't really decide that between the class. You could say it's a want because, a phone is a phone, realistically. But we do want, that new iPhone, okay? Some people may feel like they need it, okay? You see it all the time in the hallways. Everybody is on their phone. Everybody uses their phone at some point of the day for some reason, okay? So you can see how that's a want. People also say We also had the argument of needing it. Do we need a phone? In case we communicate with one another, how are we going to get in touch? That could be a need. So that's basically on your preference. A book bag, that was necessarily a want. The class decided that, essentially you can, carry your books. You can put everything in your locker. Or you can see how I see some students, which I was one of those students in high school too. I crammed everything in my backpack. Okay? I felt like I needed to have that backpack to keep me organized. It was great to have a locker, but when you're transitioning from class to class, you really don't have time to go to your locker, especially if it's on the other side of the class or the school in general. Now, same thing with the laptop. That could be a want or a need. Okay? The concept of the laptop is supposed to help us. It's in case you want to submit assignments or you want to type papers or you want to conduct research. That could be a want. People could also say it's a need too. In college, everybody essentially needs or wants a laptop. That's your preference. That's how you go about it. If you can afford it, you can get it. But if you don't feel like you need it, you just won't buy it. You can just go the old-fashioned way of taking notes. Okay? With cars, that essentially is a need. Okay? Just because you want the nicest car, essentially you may need it. If we live out in the area or the rural area, in the metro, generally a lot of people have cars. However, if you're in an inner city, like Los Angeles, Atlanta, or New York City, you probably don't need a car. You could just simply walk or use a bike. But again, that is on your own preference. Food is a need, okay? I'm not too really keen on all the condiments up there, but essentially, excuse me, you need food to survive, okay? That's when you think of a want, it's something that, do I desire for it? Is it, can I strive or want to get it? That is a want. A need is something that you need essentially to survive, okay? And clothes, you can also say that's a want or a need, okay? I believe the class said it was a need because we do need to be properly clothed. But if you want to take it outside the box, think about, third world countries. Do they have all the materials and resources that we have? Is that necessarily a need? That's your preference. However, legally, we got to have clothes. That is a need. And then your house, of course, that would also be a need. Okay? You need shelter. All right, so the idea of wants versus needs brings about scarcity. That was talking about unlimited unlimited wants and desires, but not enough resources to meet those wants of consumers. All right, so this leads to a cost-benefit analysis, opportunity cost and trade-off. All right, so we talked about, and I drew up on the board, we used the scenario of a vending machine. We wrote down different items that you can get at the vending machine. You had your honey buns, your Powerade, your vitamin water, your lime flavored or lemon flavored Lay's, your hot Cheetos, your Takis or Takis, however you pronounce it. We jotted down a list, okay? We put down the cost of each. I believe every chip was $1 with the exception of the Takis. Since it was a small bag, it was 75 cents. And each drink was approximately $1.25 with the exception of the vitamin water being $1.75, close to $2. And what we simply did is a green check means that the cost, or the benefit outweighed the cost. And when I'm talking about cost, I'm literally talking about how much is it, okay? So, example, we use the honey bun. If the honey bun was $1, generally, would people buy it? Probably, if they're hungry, yeah. But when you take it into context, at some point, you're going to realize that the cost is too much for the benefit. So, if I spent $1 at a vending machine for a honey bun, and I felt like I was okay, but I was still hungry, I would probably buy another one. So I've now spent $2. And after $2, I feel like I'm full. The chance and probability of me buying another honey bun would essentially not be worth it. It wouldn't be worth it. Okay? So what I'm saying is, at some point we're going to realize the cost is going to outweigh the benefit, causing us to not want to buy a product. On the flip side, if we feel like the benefit outweighs the cost, we're going to essentially keep buying it. Opportunity cost, again, is the next best alternative that you have to when you make a decision, and then the trade-off is all the other options you have when making a decision. So like I just said, to wrap up, section one, when you want something, whether you realize it or not, you do a cost benefit analysis. You're going to consider, do you want it or do you need it? Your trade-offs, your other options you can choose between. Think about the vending machine example, all the options you have. Your opportunity cost is what you give up. So you may, spend that $2 to buy that vitamin water, and your opportunity cost could have been the honey buns because you could have bought 2 instead of that drink.